Couple stories out of Hanoi, both reported on in VNExpress.net, the international Vietnam news website. And I just wanted to report on them and sort of combine them into one because we've had a few dark stories out of Hanoi already. If we recall, just was it a few weeks ago, a little boy was killed in a school bus because he was left there in the sun all day during class. It was the second day of school, 6-year-old boy. So that was horrible, and that happened not far from me. And a couple more stories. The first was a light bulb factory exploded in Hadong. And Hadong is like the southwest district of Hanoi, kind of a suburb. And I used to work out there. I was there pretty reliably every week, passing through this blast zone, what is now a blast zone. But now I never need to go there anymore, so it's great. So I've been avoiding the hot spot where all of this pollution, all these contaminants were left out into the air. But it is kind of frightening because now they've discovered that it was a lot of mercury and that there's mercury poisoning within 500-meter radius of this factory. And this factory was irresponsibly built in a residential area. So that's been frightening. Thinking about going through that, and pollution in Hanoi in general is just absolutely terrible. I was talking to an American coworker earlier this week. She's from Georgia, I think she said. I don't know that many Americans. I don't meet that many out here, so it's been kind of nice. So we just talked in the elevator, just a brief conversation. She'd only been here a few months, and she was saying, the pollution was just terrible, and she couldn't handle it. And she was thinking of moving already. And so since I've been in this environment for so long, I really don't know what toll it's had on me, what effect it's had. And I do worry about that. I trick myself because there are so many green trees here. I think, oh yeah, the palm trees, they're taking care of everything, they're filtering everything. There's enough green spots, green areas. But really pollution here is quite bad. And sometimes it tops the disaster index or whatever they do, the air quality index. It sometimes gets so bad out here that they don't recommend even going outside. It certainly reminds me of China, but somehow China felt a lot worse, maybe because of just the culture in China, just how people are more prone to litter, more prone to urinate and defecate on the street. Even men, women, boys, girls, everyone does it. It's really sick. It's really weird. And I remember when I got back to Virginia Beach, I stayed with my mom and my younger brothers for a while. After my year in China, I just remember smelling China on my clothes. I had to wash my clothes several times, and I could smell it on my skin, and just walking around and just thinking, I carried China with me. I had China in my pores. I had it everywhere. And so how much bigger is that difference going to be when I finally get back to the States? I've been here more than, it's like 3.5 years now I've been here, and so it's going to be odd when I return, if and when I was going to say. Of course I'm going to return at some point, but as soon as I do, even if it's just for a holiday or something, I'm going to be smelling Vietnam on me. In the same way that going to Bangkok, and Bangkok is a huge city, it's much bigger than Hanoi, also very polluted, but I could smell Hanoi on me when I went there. Hopefully I don't have any of this mercury stuff, and hopefully this calls to mind just the corruption that goes on with manufacturing here, and it makes me realize that, this isn't just as clean. It's sort of, I've got rose-colored glasses on. I really like it out here, if I haven't said so already. I really love my life in Hanoi, and I love this city. But there are certainly flaws. No place is perfect. It's not perfect. Maybe it's perfect for me, but it's not perfect. And one of the big challenges to living in Hanoi is pollution. And so this warehouse fire, this mercury getting everywhere is quite frightening. But fortunately, not to put anyone, so no one worries about me. I don't have mercury poisoning. I do not live anywhere near this area. I used to commute there, but I don't anymore, and I have no plans on going back to Hadong anytime soon. Another story out of Hanoi. This did happen very near to where I am, or not near to me, but where I work, in Dan Phuong, which is a district pretty far west of here. It's about 20 kilometers west of where I'm at right now. This was a domestic incident. 4 people, including an infant, died, and 1 person was severely injured after a man stabbed his brother and other family members in Hanoi on Sunday. And this had to do with just a domestic dispute, something about a family fighting over what ended up being a very small plot of land, but this guy just went nuts and killed his brother and his brother's family with a knife. Just terrible. It kind of reminds me of a story that I heard when I was working in Taiwan that happened in River Falls, Wisconsin, where I used to live, where a man was going through a severe divorce and he murdered the children as revenge for his ex-wife or something. But people go nuts. And, I was just in Dan Phuong the other day, and I kind of had that, just yesterday, and I kind of had this rattling around in my head, like, wow, where did this happen? Am I walking down the street where this might have happened? What do the people I'm working with know about it? I mean, they don't speak English very well, and we wouldn't be having this conversation anyway if the communication barriers were down. But it's still frightening and tragic to look at this. And again, like the light bulb factory incident, this is just something that happens. I mean, stuff like this would happen pretty much anywhere. I'm not calling out Vietnam specifically, but I do want to report on the news here because I live here, and in fact, I really do love this city in spite of everything. As you can see in my opening sequence, the first word that appears is Hanoi, from Hanoi, Vietnam. And I've lived here more than 3 years, and I still love it. It's hard to say. It's hard to explain it to people, but maybe, eventually I have to leave, right? It's so sad. It's so sad. Thinking about, one person can flip out and just kill his brother and his brother's family. I can't even fathom the mentality that goes on behind that. And that's partly why I find true crime stories so interesting, because it's just so hard to even picture. Like, are these people even human? Is this really, is this really what humans are capable of? Is this really what we're about? Doesn't it give us some perspective on our own struggles, our own anger, our own miseries in our lives? Just sad. But anyway, 2 sad stories out of Hanoi this week. You can read them if you want. vnexpress.net is a good website, good English news website, and at least they're giving us the full story. Certainly living in China, another communist country, you couldn't really find accurate stories for anything like this. There were no English sources, and probably no Chinese sources that were really reporting on what was really happening. And to some extent, of course, everywhere news gets filtered. It doesn't matter if it's communist or monarchist or whatever. Any form of government, any country I've lived in, does filter their news to a degree. But I, at the very least, take from this some hope in that they're being transparent and that they're at least giving the facts not only to their own people but to expatriates out here who speak English primarily or only or mostly. Certainly, I do not speak Vietnamese well enough to read news articles with any close detail. But yeah, that's what's happening in Hanoi. But I look outside, it's still a sunny day. There's still happiness, there's still life, it still continues everywhere. Lately, it's been sort of a meditation of mine where I'll just suddenly stop what I'm doing and think, everything is happening. Everyone's in motion, not just me. And most people are moving a lot more than I am, in fact. Tragic stuff here in Hanoi. Over and out.